What is up, everybody? This is the Wild Nutrition Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Heskett, and this is Coffee Talk Friday, episode 104. And my audio on my end is a little wonky right now. So, there we go. Now it's better. So, hopefully, it's not too wonky on your end. As always, this is unedited, unfiltered, and all that stuff. And we're going to try to keep it to around 15 minutes as usual, with the timer starting now. So, with that being said, today's topic is going to be how perfection is the enemy of progress. And you would think that being perfect would be progressing you faster. This is usually the thought process. Like, well, if I'm perfect, I would get results faster. However, usually we use perfectionism because nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Your mom's not perfect. Your boss isn't perfect. Nobody's perfect. So if you're trying to be perfect, it's kind of a cop out. Like it's not something that you can actually be. You can't be perfect. You can't find the perfect time. There can be the perfect opportunity pop up, but these are moments in time. It's never a continued perfection of a long period of time. Even people who have their shit really dialed in, like there's things that pop up along the way that make things not perfect. So perfectionism is not it is not something you can do, and it is the enemy of progress. And so on Monday's podcast, we actually talk about this a little bit. And actually on Alex's podcast coming out also Monday. Yes, Monday. She also talks about this a little bit. So if you want even more details, you can go listen to those. So when we are trying to be perfect, we want everything to be in line, or we're not going to do anything at all. And so we never actually make any progress, because progress isn't made from being perfect. It's made by being consistent. It's made by taking action steps, doing small things over time. So instead of trying to be 100% perfect, it's just trying to do 1% more than you did yesterday, than you did last week, than you did last month, and moving forward. So this is something I've seen over time. I've been in this industry for over 10 years, and I've seen people who make those small actions over time. They make insane progress where a year from now, you hardly recognize that person you were a year ago. But then the people who, it was, I don't know, never actually took action, they're just waiting for that perfect time, they're still in the same spot. They haven't moved forward. Their mental health is the same. Their physical health is the same. Their physical fitness is the same, which is kind of the same as physical health, but not exactly. So everything about them hasn't moved. In fact, a lot of times it's gone backwards. It's gone the wrong way, but they're like, I'm just waiting. This time it'll be different. But you don't take action towards making a difference. And those actions can be, hey, like I don't have time or the mental capacity, because that's a real thing. Like so last night kids were all up multiple times. Amelia, and we had to end up sleeping with my oldest daughter, Amelia, put her in the bed because at 2 a.m. she decided to get up and wake my wife up. So my wife went in, she calmed down, but then she wasn't getting much sleep in there. So she came in, she's like, you need to go. Well, when she came out, the gate that we used to keep Amelia in the room woke her up. So she started crying. So I go in there and she wants mommy. So she's crying and crying and crying. Well, finally, we put her in bed. But that doesn't include so last night we were woken up multiple times. The youngest woke up for a bottle feed. She woke up another time. Amelia woke up 2 or 3 times. Yeah, it just was not a good night's sleep. So we're tired today. And my wife was like, oh, I'm like a day Friday she's off of work, so she's like, I'm gonna try to sleep in. Well, she did sleep in, but she got less sleep than usual. Like, what the fuck? So things like that happen, and so you need to realize you're never gonna be full of energy. You're never gonna, like, that last night was not a perfect night of sleep. So that's going to affect my energy levels for today, which might affect my cravings for today. So you need to adjust your plan based on that. You can't be like, okay, this is perfect. This is the way I'm going to do things. Like, no, you have to do things now. I could have recorded this podcast yesterday, but now I'm recording it today and I'm tired. Could have been better yesterday? Sure. Is it better than not getting it out there? Absolutely. So when it comes to you, when it comes to nutrition or fitness, it might be, hey, I don't have time to actually work out. Maybe you do 2 workouts a week instead of 5 days a week. Maybe you go for walks. And we talk about this on Monday's podcast. Maybe, you're driving all over because of the kids' sports schedules. Well, maybe you take a kettlebell or some bands in with your car, and while they're in practice, you're out in the park getting a quick workout in. And it doesn't need to be long. It doesn't need to be an hour-long workout. You're like, oh my God, it's cold. I'll be bored. Like, go warm up, wear warm clothes, take off some layers, and do a 15-minute workout. You can't expect perfection if you're in certain situations. Kids make things really hard to be perfect. So if you have kids, it's going to be hard to always have the perfect program. And you might have periods of time where you have the perfect program. Right now, and I've said this multiple times, but if you're new to the podcast, right now it's hunting season. We have the holidays. This is when I back off my training. I allow myself not to be perfect. I don't stress out because a couple years ago I did, but hunting takes a huge mental toll on me. It's tiring, sitting out exposed to the elements because I'm always like in a tree stand and you're exposed to the cold air for long periods of time. You get all the emotions that go with it of the excitement, and if things don't go well, you know, the negative emotions or the happy emotions, and then process it. Like the other night, I was processing 2 deer till 2 a.m. in the morning. Like there's a lot to go into it. Plus, we have the holidays. Plus, we have small kids. So my training might only be 3 days a week right now. It might be only doing a few exercises. It might just be whatever I feel like. I'm still moving my body. I was not dedicated. And then once hunting season's over, which the bulk of hunting season wraps up here in PA, so recording this on the 1st of December. So it ends December 9th. And then we get into late season, which I sort of hunt, but not nearly as much. So it's like there's only 9 days left. That's it. And then I can refocus back to my workout program for the next, up until end of September. So I allow myself a couple months to back off, go into, the bulk of the year. I can really focus on my health and my fitness. So same thing applies for you. There's going to be times where you can't focus. You can't do, but you can do something. So I'm not like, well, I can't work out 5 days a week. I can't do my perfect program, so I'm not going to do it at all. Well, I got one flat tire. Might as well just like pop the other 3 because that makes sense. By the way, we had to get tires like over the summer as when inflation was crazy high, and I'm like on the phone with the dealership, and the guy's looking like we're trying to find cheaper tires, and he's like, this is ridiculous. These are so expensive. And they were. So it's like, you wouldn't do that. But that's a lot of times how we approach our health and fitness because we want to be perfect. And if we can't be perfect, we're not going to make a change because change is scary and change is hard. And we would rather it not happen. When it comes to nutrition, instead of tracking your perfect macros and having the perfect meal prep, it might just be eating a veggie and protein at each meal. It might be swapping out some of the refined carbs in your life for some whole grains and fruits and more starchy veggies. So instead of just regular pasta or egg noodles, I say egg noodles because this time of year we like to eat them, and then my daughter loves them, of course. Maybe it's whole grain pasta. Maybe it's potatoes, sweet potatoes. Maybe you swap out some potatoes sometimes for winter squash, which have about half the calories of a sweet potato. So you can do some of this stuff. You can figure it out. But one major issue I've noticed recently, people don't problem solve. Like we want to be given an answer, but a lot of people, for whatever reason, don't problem solve themselves. They just accept things at face value, and they don't really use their brain. So if this is something you need to do, you need to problem solve your situation, because everything is figure outable. And I know that's not a word, but you can figure it out. Oh my God, I am traveling. I am so busy with the holidays. I am blah, 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 blah. Figure it the fuck out. Figure out what you can do rather than being like, see, I'm busy. And this is something I'll get comments from people, and they try to like trauma dump or send all this stuff at me. It's like, see, I am hopeless. I'm helpless. You can't help me. And as soon as it's like, okay, well, what about this? And they like ghost me, or it's just you can figure it out. You just have to use your brain a little bit. And if that hits a little close to home, well, you might not have been using your brain. Or if you have been like kind of doing it, but not really, you're going to be like, okay, I need to double down. So if that hurts a little bit, use your fucking brain. You're a human being. Problem solve. We can always figure things out. You can figure out what you can do if it's important to you. If it's not important, then fine. But why the fuck are you listening to a nutrition podcast right now if it's not something that's important to you? So if you've made it this far, if you've been a listener for a while and you're not taking action, what are you doing? Like, why aren't I shouldn't say why aren't you doing it? Why aren't you figuring it out? And you don't need all the information, because that's the next thing. Well, I need more info. No, the fuck you don't. You need to take action, because you can take action and refine later. We've had clients where they started with Optavia, then they came to us. Like, is it the best program? No, it's a shitty program. It's terrible. But they took action. They started down the path. They started seeing some results. They refined later on. We fixed the issues with Optavia. You can do the same thing. Oh, I started lifting. I realized the program was really terrible. Well, you probably weren't going backwards. You were probably getting some results. As long as you didn't get injured, you're getting some results. So we can refine later. We can take action, figure out what you can do, and then improve along the way. And sometimes you don't need to do super high level stuff. You can just start with very simple things. If you're not resistance training, why would you go on something like a conjugate program, which is pretty advanced? That's a dumb thing to do. It's not smart. Instead, we can do a beginner program. Like, maybe we just do goblet squats. Like, you can't squat 135 pounds. Why would we start you with like a conjugate program with a barbell? Like, maybe we just start bodyweight squats or kettlebell goblet squat or dumbbell goblet squat. Like, we start there. We can refine later as you progress. You don't need the perfect program. You don't need the perfect diet. You don't need the perfect mindset. You do need a willingness to take action, and you do need to problem solve your situation to figure out what I can do to move forward with my results. Because if it's important, what can I do to get the results I want? How do I go about getting the things I need? So, problem solving. Totally not fitness related. We're going hunting. We're at the end of hunting season. You guys all know I hunt. If you're new to the podcast, by the way, I hunt a lot. So, this is something, that's, I like hunting. So we have a situation where the hunting that we've done in past years hasn't been quite the same this year. So we haven't quite filled up, gone to the point where we want to be at. So we need to problem solve. How can I fill that freezer? Because ultimately I'm hunting to get enough meat to last the year. So we need about 2 more deer. So where can we find that? Well, I'm going out hunting tomorrow, but the location's really bad. And we're finding out that it's really only good when there's leaves on the trees, which there's not at this point. Now that's December. So where else can we go? Well, there's another location nearby, but I have to get special permission to go there. So that's not an option for this year. And then going out, so location Gettysburg, that just for late season, because the farmer didn't plant anything, just left the fields as is. And it turns out the neighbors have started planting food plots, which, if you don't know, basically you do like a few acres of land in the food that you would give to deer. So it's basically like ag land, but you plant it for deer food for hunting. So the deer are going there because it's late season. They want to be on food because there's not really any food left in the woods. So that hunting is no longer the same that it used to be, where it's very predictable. Like, okay, I know if I go out, I hunt 2 days, I can come back with 2 deer. Well, it's like, no, that didn't happen. Like, hunted 2 days, came back with one small deer. Like, not good, especially once you go with gas and everything else. Like, okay, how much did we actually net out of this? Like, we netted, but not that much. Okay, so let's problem solve. Where can we go locally? So we found a location that we're going to reach out to in the early spring to talk to who that PA has a hunter access program. Okay, so we're going to talk to them about getting permission to hunt that property. It's a property that's nearby. It's actually a farm that we go to and buy stuff from them all the time. So, like, oh wow, that's perfect. I know exactly where it is. It's a great property. We can rifle hunt it. We can archery hunt it. But we need to get permission. So there's that. There's also another spot where there's some state forest land that is public land you can hunt. So I'm like, okay, well, late season we can hunt here with rifles up until the 27th of January. So what I can do after rifle season is done is scout it out. I can go hiking there. I can go and do some small game hunting there, and we can just check it out and try to see if it's worth hunting. And if it is, great. If it's not, then, well, now we know we can check that off and try to find new spots. So for this year, it's like we need to check out that state forest land. And for next year, we're going to be trying to get other spots. So you need to problem solve. Same thing. So you could just be like, oh, well, hunting sucks and we're just not going to get as much as we wanted, so we need to plan it. Or you can problem solve it. Same thing applies with your nutrition and your fitness. Well, results used to be easy. Now they're much harder. Yeah, you step it up. You're at the next level. Congratulations. Now shit gets a little bit harder. It's not as easy as it once was. Guess what? You're also more capable as a person. So you need to problem solve your stuff. You can't be perfect. Nobody is perfect. So you can't say, well, I'm either all or nothing, because that's just perfectionism. No, nobody is. So you can't be all or nothing. You're using that as a cop out. You're human, and having an all or nothing mindset or a perfectionist mindset, which they're one and the same basically, is the enemy of progress. You need to get rid of that. You need to instead just start taking action. You see it a lot online of people who finally make progress with something, and it's, I just decided to make this change. I decided that I was going to start eating better. And it's not, I decided to go keto. I decided to go low carb, carnivore, vegan, etc. It's, I just decided to do this, go down this journey, and I learned along the way. And that same thing applies to you. You're going to start something. You're going to suck at it because you're new. That's okay. It's okay to suck at things. We all do when we do something new. Anytime you start something new, you're not good. Anyways, you're going to get better over time. You just have to keep at it. So if you're like, oh, well, it wasn't perfect. Oh, I took up an art class and I wasn't painting like a master artist. Like, yeah, no fucking shit. Why would you expect that? I didn't paint like Bob Ross. Like, yeah, he's, how many years, how much time has he spent developing that skill? Why would you expect that? Did you come out of that class learning something and you're better than when you went in? Yes, no, maybe? Okay, well, if yes, then you took something away. Keep at it. Keep practicing. You'll figure things out. Anyways, that's it for today's podcast, guys. So hopefully this was helpful to you guys. As always, check out the show notes for, if you don't follow me on social media, make sure you follow me. But we also have a free guide down there to help you if you're like, okay, I need to take action. I listened to this. I need to take action, but I don't know where to start or how to get started. There's going to be a resource guide down below. There's 3 things in there. There's a workout program. That's number 1 with videos and everything. There's a nutrition guide to help you get started with that. And then there's a mindset guide if that's the thing holding you back the most, which everybody needs to work on mindset. So There's 3 things in there for you, so that can be the perfect place to get started. But the thing is, don't grab that and just like look at it and don't take action. Grab it and take action. That's the first thing to do. And if this was helpful, leave a review, as that is helpful for other people to find the podcast. Please leave a review, share it on your social media so more people can see it. Tag me if you share it. That is always appreciated at Chris_PWC. I need to change my social media handle now that it's not PWC. I don't know what to change it to though. But leave a review. I also read those to help try to figure out what episodes resonate best with you, the listener, because that's ultimately why I'm doing this.